he is one of the great kings of Judah, but it's so sad how he ended his life. He could have well established his name as one of the great kings because of how he restored the temple and set up a system for its continual upkeep. There are actually two kings named Joash. There's the king of Judah, which we refer to as Joash, and there's the king of Israel, which we often say Jehoash. In reality, these are both the same names. We just refer them that way to keep it clear who we're talking about. Well, when Joash comes on the scene, it's now 101 years since Solomon built that temple. Now, if you've taken a challenge and you're trying to keep up with the kings of Judah, you may have forgotten that we were doing that. We have, of course, David and Solomon, and then the kings of Judah. We have Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, and Jehoshaphat. Now, I hope that's where we left off. So you have Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, and Jehoshaphat. Now, the next two kings, their names are a little harder to remember because we don't make much of them. We don't talk about them a lot, but there's Jehoram. That was the king that Athaliah was married to. And then there's Ahaziah, which was Athaliah's son. Both of them were wicked kings. So if you get those two names down, then you have a pretty good chance of staying up with us here, because then we have Athaliah and Joash. So review those and kind of keep up with us on that. Joash had been king for 23 years when he started the restoration of the temple. The temple was in disrepair. One, just simply because it was 120 some years old. So probably a lot of things needed to be done. But on top of that, Athaliah had sacked the building. She had ravished the place. And so there's a lot that needed to be done. And that was really Joash's great accomplishment. There was nothing else that he did other than the evil that he did. Now, he became king when he was 7 years old. Well, he wasn't able to rule at that time. And Jehoiada, we think of him that maybe he reigned instead. But no, he was priest. Now, he was the advisor. In reality, he was the one that was probably making the decision, but there had to be someone who was the figurehead to be in the place of Joash. Most people think that it was the queen mother, Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat was the same woman that went in and grabbed the baby Joash out and brought him to the temple. And now she's in a position, at least for 7 years, from the time Joash was 7 until he was 14. At that point, he could actually take the reins. Joash set up this system of putting the box there where people could put the money in. People really liked that. And as the story goes, this was a time when people rallied to that. Well, that system of putting the box next to the gate, of course, the temple was destroyed, but when it was rebuilt, they put the box back there. And when Herod redid the temple, the box stayed in place. And when Jesus was teaching, he looked over and saw all the people coming by and putting money into this same type of box. And that's when he saw the widow put in 2 mites. When I was in Jerusalem last time, I spoke at a church, the only Protestant church that's inside the old city. And after I was done, they gave me this gift. It is actually the widow's mite, not the original, but it's the type of a mite that the widow would have put in. This kind of shows you the type of coin that was used. Well, it was in this same type of box that Joash set up. Couple other little interesting things. Jehoiada was buried in the royal tombs. He was honored so much, but Joash wasn't, because of what he did to the son of his faithful friend. They didn't allow him to be buried there, but the friend was. Now, one last thing is that the Syrians, Hazael was the king of Syria when they captured Jerusalem. Remember, we had him in a farmer story. Well, here he is again, and we'll see him again later on. But Hazael was the king of Syria at that time. Well, so much for this story. Come back next week when we give you some more story insights on the story of the week. We'll see you next week.